Hey there, MD406. This is Mitch Peterson here with my final project. I do feel the need to give a little bit of background about what I'm doing, so I'm going to start off with that. I did my analysis of a school library media website on Hawley Elementary School in Newtown. Now, there are two reasons. First, they have an opening right now that I've applied for already, and I've been in contact with the principal for. And secondly, it was awful. So there are two different library sites, this one, and then under departments, or library media. Those bring you to their catalog, Follett. It's a nice, they've got a nice spread here. And then this, which is an old school Google site created by, I assume, their old SLMS. It's got 4 links in here, and then there's very little to work with. Now, it is a K-4 school. So for the purposes of my final project, I focused a lot on the K-school aspect of it because I plan on bringing this to an interview. So what you're going to see is half what I need for the project and half what I can bring to the table as an interviewee. So let's get going. Here is a Google site I created for Hawley Elementary School. Right off the bat, I embedded their actual Twitter into it. This is their feed based on a STEM night they had. This is all live and clickable. You'll see down in the corner. It goes to their Twitter. I cross-referenced everything within the site that was created, and we'll get into that a little bit. So right off the bat, I've got an easy navigation system. Hawley Elementary School Library Media Center stays up there no matter what link I'm on. So the first thing I've got is just find a book. Real quick and easy, I wanted to give a feature. So two of the features that I'm taking a look at are the Caldecott and the Newbery medals. Here I've got the 2018 medal winners. This one is actually within their catalog already, if you click this, it links out to it. This links out to information for the Caldecott from the ALA, likewise for Newbery. Newtown does not have Hello Universe, which, judging on this, I really do want to take a look at it. Below that is a live, is their catalog. It is live, so if I were to go and put Wolf in the Snow right into it, it does show me in the Hawley Elementary Library what's in there. This was simple embedding. It worked pretty well. You can see that they have 1 of 1 and it's checked in. So interest level is preschool. That's because the Caldecott is a picture book medal, but regardless. So let's get into it. In the navigation system, I have students, parents, and staff because I believe the website should be usable for all 3. So if we go into students, where I think the predominance of the website is going to get its use, it's got a landing page for students, and again, linked out to educational games, and you'll see later on where those things are linked out to award-winning books and reviews and searching online tips. Admittedly, these searching online tips are a bit higher than K4, just for the purpose. Kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, these are the actual teachers' names. I said I'm going to bring this into the interview, and that's what I intend to do. So I want it to be as personalized as possible. So let's say I've got a 3rd grade teacher on the panel. I hit 3rd grade. It's going to bring me to the 3rd grade page. Again, just for some filler, I put the catalog in here. On a kindergarten page, I've got it linked so you have the visual catalog. You're looking at pictures of animals or history, science. And then within each of those, it breaks it down into types so that they can use the catalog without having explicit reading capabilities in 1st and kindergarten. Down at the bottom, additional resources can be used from the PLC. What I'm trying to get to the point here is that if a 3rd grade team thinks that certain resources can be useful, I can add them just to the 3rd grade page. I don't have to add them in general, and the kids don't have to sift through a huge sitemap just to find them. So the kindergarten, the 1st, the 2nd, they're all the same here, all the way through 4th, because this really isn't what our class was about. That's when we go into parents. So the parent landing page, I took a look at other Newtown elementary schools. Sandy Hook specifically has a parent volunteer form, which I love the idea of. You can never have enough help in a library. So I created a real quick one. You probably won't be able to view this just because of the permissions, but real straightforward. You choose a date that's going to work for you, and You can submit them. Optional messages and the parent contact information. This is going to be viewable by just a library media specialist. Again, at the bottom, research tips, collection databases online. This is the stuff that we learned in class, and these are the things that we'll be taking a look at a little bit deeper. So, because sometimes they don't realize this is a landing page, I did have an entire page dedicated to volunteering. So I re-embedded the form. It takes up the entire page. That way, I'm not relying on parents clicking this instead of clicking that. It's actually a huge issue where you have the parent, it's called, the parent website has nothing on it, and therefore people get there and they think there's nothing for it, if that makes sense. So choosing a book, here's where we start getting into some of the things that we've learned about. Not quite a fact yet, but I've got up here the 5-finger rule, and I break it down based on how I was taught in college. Then I have a little picture I stole here. I give attribution to all my pictures in the alt text. Alt text isn't viewable by like hovers. Those are a little bit different, but the alt text is viewable if you look into the page source. So that way you understand that there's attribution being given without being bold in your face and having to scream things in here. The 5-finger rule, which is very important, that I have the asterisk here, is important to understand that it doesn't check comprehension, it's just the readability. This is essentially a quick Lexile check, not necessarily their degree of reading. So to that end, how to look for a book, looking for a book suggestion. A couple questions to consider. What genre do you enjoy reading? Here's the reader's advisory. What are some topics you enjoy learning about? Do you have a favorite author? I know the favorite author one isn't something that the reader's advisory said to go for, because authors will write many different types of books. But it's a good place to begin, because a lot of children's and YA book authors do write a lot of the same kind of things. And then if you have any of these answers, go over to the catalog. And this brings you back to the find the book. Last but not least, ask a friend for a recommendation. Peer recommendations are invaluable. And I kind of break that down for them. If they've moved on to a book that they enjoy, there's a good chance that you might enjoy it if you have some of the same, genres or the same topics. Coming from students, it's imperative that they hear their friends say they enjoy a book for this reason, because really that instills that an academic literacy is important to not just the student who's looking for a book, but someone else who can articulate why they like it, hopefully. And then Google Classroom. I threw this in there again because of the interviewing process. It's short, sweet, and to the point. I didn't create these videos. I found them. This is an introduction to Google Classroom for parents. This is an introduction for how to sign up for Google Classroom for parents. Something that I get asked every single year in conference meetings. I've presented at my school for parents' nights. It's super important information, and I think it should be readily available by the library media specialists. So let's keep going. If we go down to staff, here's the meat and potatoes of the course that we've done. I think a comment box is greatly important. Again, the parent page here would have nothing on it if I didn't put this here. But this is essentially a way to ask for help. Is there a resource you'd like to know about? If so, what? I can look it up. I'm technologically literate. If the third grade teacher doesn't have enough time to look up XYZ or to look for a new assessment platform, and they could just put that in there, I know what I can do to help. I know what I can do to coach. I know what I can do to co-teach. Those are the things I need to be able to do. So the how to research. Here's my research methodology. Here's a very generic one because it makes sense and it works. It's a 5-step or 4 or 5.5 step if you want to look at it like that. You hypothesize your question. You look things up. You copy down your info. You do your evaluation, your credibility check. If after the credibility check you don't have enough evidence, you go back and you do it again. That's step 4B. Rinse, lather, repeat. And step 5 is putting everything into your publication, whatever that might happen to be. So within each of these steps, I've got search terms, which is searching suggestions, obtaining your information, your online resources or your databases, and then the CRAP test, which is checking credibility. Admittedly, I might not call it the CRAP test for a K4 school because CRAP would probably be considered a swear. We could just call it a credibility check. The acronym still helps, and it's fun to say, oh, you guys know your crap. So, search suggestions. Some of you might have seen a page like this before, used it on a different I use this exact page as an explanation for a lesson plan I did for a different class. So really goes into Boolean searching, and it breaks down what to do, what not to do. Don't write in questions. Do write in the most important words. So we're getting rid of was, the, and what, because those are tier 1 words. If you type them in, you're trying to get the search bar to find it. So we go from 313 million to 22 million. Next step down, try using quote marks. This is the differentiator as far as phraseology, because now you can pair civil and war. And anytime civil shows up, war has to come after it. That goes from 22 million to 124 million. Interestingly, the number goes up. So, use different words. If cause is a tier 1 word, or even a tier 2 word, we want to use academic vocab. You're only going to find what you ask it for. So contributed is a much stronger word. People who have written academically about the Civil War are probably using contributed instead of cause, because cause is a singular, and a contribution is a multiple. So there are multiple things that happened that caused the Civil Wars. Multiple things contributed. So then I get into site search commands, which really start showing how to narrow down your responses. Site:.org, and I have the asterisk here for .orgs, and that's at the bottom. We'll take a look at that. The .gov gave me the smallest amount at 32,800. All of the sites are .govs. This is CIA, it's Central Intelligence Agency, and then so that's the one I keep using. Down here is your asterisk. Not all .org sites are reliable. You should always check the credibility of the information you find. For the purposes of the interview, I do have something backed up. I could talk about how Stormfront.org is an organization, but it's a neo-Nazi website that actually owns MartinLutherKing.org, which is, again, not a credible source. So those aren't things I'm going to put on here. They're not relevant to K4 school, but just something up my sleeve. Narrowing down the sources by adding additional quotes. So contributed, Civil War, site.gov, 32,008. As soon as I add sectionalism, I go down to 2,640 results, which at that point, I've probably gotten all the best answers I can. These are all .govs. It goes from CIA to Library of Congress, so I can probably definitely trust these things. And step 6, not everything is going to be on the first page. I can't expect anyone's going to read 6, 7, 8 full pages worth of documents, but we've done it for our masters, and we'll do it for our doctorates. So, online resources to put together, again for K4, and I broke them up into the different content areas. I keep plugging out these search suggestions because I want the students to be able to adequately use this site to be able to find their information. So reading, math, science, and history, I didn't put writing because most curriculum will have reading and writing kind of hand in hand, or they'll have your writing with your science, your writing with your history, blah, blah, blah. So I've got 3 sites for each of them. Again, the alt text for the photo is here. Each of these is live, so if I hit this guy, it's taking me out. This is important. It pops me up in another tab, so when I get rid of this, the student is back at this page. It doesn't get rid of them. You don't have to go click back 90 times to find the page again. So this is Scholastic Kids. It's one resource the students might be able to use. So all of these are live. Feel free to give them a try. If you've never heard of Free Rice, I implore you to look at that. It is super important for the world. That's pretty much that. Again, this is kind of a show-off site for the interview, not necessarily for what our school needs us to do. Databases, however, on the other hand, are what we need. Different databases in terms of what we will need to be able to look up. The repository is important to be able to have multiples at your disposal. I chose all free for the most part, because I believe you don't need to pay something in order to have quality. So Encyclopedia Britannica, World Atlas, these are obviously free. New York Public Library, I appreciate so much more than Connecticut State Public Library, because I've used it extensively throughout my own college, both undergrad and grad. EBSCO is a go-to. Google Earth, kind of the equivalent to World Atlas, just a little more flashy, I guess. I've got the DK Find Out, Nat Geo Kids, just for, what if you need to look up something social studies related? I want some of these to be relevant to the school itself. And then the checking credibility. This is the CRAP test here. How do we check? How do we evaluate? How do we analyze to see if it's going to work? So obviously we've talked about CRAP in the class. We've had that in the discussion forums. The currency, reliability, authority, and the purpose. What I did was I put 3 questions from each of these, from each category up here, so that this could serve, if we have about a 4th grade class doing research on the gold rush, you could have a student with this page open go, when was the site last updated? And go, oh, it was updated on 2018, and you're like, oh, that's really recent. What date can you find? Oh, it was originally published in 2014. Oh, it's 4 years old, not bad. Is it current enough for your project? Sure. And this is something I would like to talk about if we're talking about the gold rush. Does it have to be from 2014? Absolutely not. It could be a primary source document from a newspaper in the 1800s. So all of these are talking points that we could co-teach or explicitly teach in the library media. So let's, reliability again, we've got questions that they can reference. Who is sponsoring the publication? These are some higher order questions. Admittedly, again, not K4 questions, but for the purpose of our class, I thought it important to have these as a movable reference. So if I don't get the job in an elementary school, I can easily port this out to a middle school or a high school, where these would get a lot of traffic. I broke down each of them here: authority, purpose, and I have 3 guiding questions for each of them. I pulled the guiding questions almost directly, in some cases, from the Utah Education Network. That's credited down here. It's not a picture. I did feel it important to actually put it there, because as a resource, you can actually find a checklist. Excuse me. And then just finally some facts. How long can I check out a book? These are really quick and easy things that we need to do. How long can I check out a book? I just kind of made up the answer because their website had none of this. Excuse me, just getting over sickness. Audiobooks, same thing, I made something up. Allowed to check out cameras, laptops, and other electronics. In the 3 schools I've been in, the students have never been allowed to do this. Students are not allowed to. Teachers have to check them out. They can't go home. But if they require materials for a project, have your parents get in contact with me. The job of the school isn't to, it's not to separate. So if there's a socioeconomic reason that a student can't get a project done, I believe it's in my best interest to help them out. So that might be something I'm trying to sell a little bit if I, get that interview. How can I find books on my reading level? This happens all the time. I'm an ELA teacher, and I know a few of you guys are as well. First off, 5-finger rule for vocab. Scholastic Book Wizard I threw in there because it's helpful and breaks it down by Lexile, by DRA, by guided read label. It's really quick and easy. I didn't put fab.lexile in there, which my school uses, because I don't know what Newtown does. But again, in here, I link both to the 5-finger rule that I have, or the parents for choosing a book, and the catalog itself. So once they find something on the Scholastic Wizard, they can go back out. And again, how do I find a book like blank? Here we're looking at the read-alikes. I explain to them, I link out to Goodreads. Go to the search bar, type in the title of your book, and on the right-hand side it populates other books that people have enjoyed. Another way is to ask classmates. This goes back to the other page that we talked about here, choosing a book, because children are going to advocate for the books that they like the best. It's all well and good to go to to Goodreads and see that a high schooler has suggested Wonder, but if you've got a 5th grader suggesting Wonder to someone else, it's probably a little bit more powerful than reading on a screen. So I'm going to link out the site in the video here. Thanks everyone for a great semester, and have a great summer.